The warp trembled. Across the Imperium, screaming souls twisted in impossible geometries. The Emperor of Mankind sat unmoving upon his golden throne, a god bound to a corpse, sustaining the Astronomicon through sheer will. 10,000 psychers perished daily to feed its light, yet today, something deeper stirred. The Astronomicon flickered. Warp storms rippled across reality like thunder rolling through blood. The Emperor's mind reached out, extending across the endless tides of madness to stabilize the beacon, and then, for the first time in millennia, he faltered. The Imperium folded in on itself. What emerged was not destruction, but displacement. A fracture, a wound, through which the Emperor fell. And somewhere beyond the veil of his dying Imperium, another galaxy felt a shudder in the Force. Coruscant. The heart of the Galactic Empire. It was night, though the sky never darkened, only shimmered with the light of city spires and repulsor lift lanes. But something invisible passed over the planet, something ancient and electric, stirring whispers among the Force-sensitive. In the Imperial Palace, Darth Sidious stirred from his meditation. His yellow eyes snapped open. "Master?" Darth Vader's mechanical voice echoed from across the comlink. "I sense a disturbance." Palpatine's tone was low, eager. Something beyond the Force itself. Like the birth of a new star, or the death of one. In the Undercity, where sunlight never reached, a crater smoked among the forgotten streets. The air was thick with static. At its center stood a figure, immense, golden, terrible. The Emperor of Mankind breathed. His armor shimmered faintly under neon light, its runes pulsing like embers. His eyes opened, brilliant orbs of psychic fire, and he felt the alien hum of this universe pressing against his being. The warp was distant here, like a shadow behind glass. Instead, a new energy enveloped him, ancient, orderly, and yet chaotic in its balance. The Force, his voice echoed like thunder across the hollow ruins. A prison, and a key. He took a step forward, and the ferrocrete beneath his feet cracked. At once, shadows moved. Imperial probes detected the energy spike, stormtroopers were dispatched. He could feel them, human, structured, fearful. A militarized humanity ruled by darkness. It both intrigued and disgusted him. He raised his hand, and the world stilled. Minds shattered like glass as his psychic presence brushed against them. One trooper's weapon clattered to the ground, another fell to his knees, whispering prayers he didn't understand. The Emperor frowned. Humanity survives here, but enslaved. He looked skyward. The city world extended beyond sight, metallic and alive. He could sense the hierarchy, the oppressor's signature above all, one who wielded power through deceit, not truth. A false emperor. The thought burned in his mind like a brand. He spread his consciousness outward, tracing the nexus of this force, testing its boundaries. It resisted, alive, reactive, aware of him. Through that web of energy, he felt something, someone, watching back. And somewhere in the Imperial Palace, Palpatine smiled. "This presence," Sidious whispered. "It dares to challenge me." He rose from his throne, cloak trailing like shadow. "Summon the Inquisitors. I will meet our guest personally." Far below, the Emperor of Mankind began to walk through the streets of Coruscant. Civilians scattered before him, his aura was too radiant, too inhuman. Lights flickered as he passed. Machines sputtered and died. Children fell silent, sensing the divinity beneath his monstrous presence. He spoke softly to no one. "I have crossed the void once more, yet not by my design. The Imperium, the throne, all I built." He paused, listening to the hum of hovercrafts above, the cries of the enslaved masses, the corruption woven into every layer of this society. "Has followed me here in spirit." Above him, stormtrooper patrols hovered on speeder platforms. Commands crackled through comms, "Contain the anomaly. Shoot on sight." They opened fire. Blaster bolts streaked through the air, each vaporizing harmlessly against a golden barrier that shimmered around him. He extended one hand, and the troopers froze in midair, suspended by invisible pressure. Their blasters twisted into molten fragments. Then, gently, he lowered his hand. The troopers collapsed to the ground, unconscious, not dead. Mercy. Even now, his compassion endured. He turned toward the towering skyline, eyes narrowing. I will find the ruler of this domain. And I will judge him. His presence rippled outward again, this time consciously. He wanted to be found. He wanted the self-proclaimed emperor to sense him. And on the far side of the city, Palpatine's laughter echoed through the force like crackling lightning. Come, then, the Dark Lord whispered. Let us see whose throne shall endure. But deep beneath Coruscant, far below the warring powers of the surface, a different sensation stirred in the Force. Jedi in hiding, those who had survived Order 66, felt something radiant pierce the darkness for the first time in years. It feels like light, one whispered. Not the light side, another corrected. Something else. Something older. They turned their gaze skyward, unaware that both emperors, the false and the divine, were already moving toward a collision that would shake the galaxy. The void screamed. And from that endless howl, a presence tore through, ancient, luminous, and burning with the fury of 1,000 suns. Not a ship. Not a being in armor. But will incarnate. The warp had ruptured above Coruscant, twisting the skies into bleeding auroras that rippled through hyperspace lanes. Every astropath, every force sensitive in the galaxy, screamed in unison as their minds were branded with a single word. Kneel. Palpatine's throne room shuddered as lightning burst from the spires of the Imperial Palace. The Dark Lord rose, cloak snapping in the storm's psychic wind. For the first time in decades, his breath hitched. He felt it. A presence beyond the Force, older, crueler, vaster. And then, through the rift, he stepped forth. The Emperor of Mankind. Wrapped in burnished gold armor that shimmered like a dying sun, his eyes blazed with psychic fire, not of corruption, but of divine will. The very marble beneath him cracked as his feet touched Coruscant's surface. His gaze swept the skyline, towers of steel and tyranny, and for the briefest moment, he almost smiled. Humanity, he whispered, his voice shaking the city. Still chained to darkness. The psychic storm collapsed in on itself. Thousands fainted. Droids short-circuited. Jedi across the galaxy fell to their knees, gasping for air. And then his voice thundered, not through speakers, but through minds. This galaxy festers with false gods. I shall cleanse it. Deep within the Death Star's construction yards, Darth Vader froze mid-command. The Force, his ally, his curse, was now screaming against him. The presence felt wrong, not in the way of the dark or the light, but in its purity. It was law and war and faith fused into one. He turned toward the stars, and for the first time since Mustafar, fear flickered beneath the mask. Who, he whispered, dares challenge the empire of the Sith? Across the galaxy, whispers began. Some called him the Golden God. Others, the true Emperor. But to the Jedi still hiding in the shadows of exile, his arrival was the ultimate omen. Because wherever his light reached, the Force itself trembled. The Imperial Palace burned with golden fire. Every sensor across Coruscant malfunctioned. Every holonet transmission turned to static. Yet within the storm's epicenter, the two greatest rulers of humanity stood face to face, divided by eons, united by power. On one side, Emperor Palpatine, master of the Sith, the architect of galactic domination. On the other, the Emperor of Mankind, the immortal God Emperor from the far future, whose will had once commanded legions of post-human warriors across the stars. They stared at one another, two titans, reflections warped by different ages. Palpatine broke the silence first. You wear the title I forged in the blood of trillions, he sneered, lightning flickering between his fingers. But I sense no dark side within you. No hunger for true power. The Emperor of Mankind did not flinch. His voice echoed not in sound, but in thoughts, reverberating through Palpatine's mind. Power without purpose is rot. You enslave mankind beneath fear. I raise it to godhood. Palpatine's grin faltered. For the first time in memory, someone dared to speak down to him. You are a relic, the Sith hissed. A fossil of an empire long dead. I am the future, the living force incarnate. The Golden Emperor's eyes flared with psychic fire. You are corruption incarnate. And then, reality split. Lightning and psychic flame collided, tearing through the palace like a nuclear sunrise. Walls melted, air screamed. Every force sensitive across the galaxy felt the tremor, a cataclysmic pulse as two cosmic ideologies collided. The Emperor of Mankind raised his gauntlet hand, summoning a psychic spear that shimmered with divine light. Palpatine countered with crimson lightning that cut through space like venom. When they met, time rippled, statues aged and crumbled, then reformed in reverse. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. From orbit, Imperial commanders watched in terror as the palace became a beacon of white and gold fire. Is it the rebellion? One stammered. No, whispered Grand Admiral Tarkin. This is something else. Inside the inferno, the duel transcended flesh. The two emperors now clashed in the warp space of the mind, the Force and the warp entangled. Palpatine hurled visions of domination, worlds kneeling, fleets burning. The Emperor countered with images of the Imperium, endless legions of golden warriors, cities reaching the stars, humanity united under divine reason. Palpatine roared. They worship you as a god, yet you pretend to serve them. The Emperor's eyes blazed like miniature suns. I serve only humanity's survival. You serve yourself. The words struck like hammers of light. Palpatine staggered, not from pain, but from the echo of truth. Yet his grin returned, fanged and wicked. Survival is meaningless without rule. And I am the ruler of all things. Then, with a howl of the dark side, he unleashed everything, the power of 10,000 Sith before him, compressed into a storm that consumed the sky. But the Emperor of Mankind stepped through it, unharmed. His armor glowed white-hot, runes igniting across its surface. He raised his hand, and the lightning froze midair, twisting backward into Palpatine's own body. The Sith Lord screamed, falling to one knee. The psychic storm collapsed into silence. All across Coruscant, the people looked up and saw the golden giant standing at the summit of the burning palace, haloed in light. I am the Emperor, he declared, voice booming across the stars. The true Emperor of humanity. Millions fell to their knees, not in fear, but awe. Even Vader, aboard his Star Destroyer, felt his will fracture. The Force whispered treachery, temptation, destiny. He turned to his officers. Prepare my shuttle, he said quietly. The galaxy is changing. The storm was over, but its echo haunted the galaxy. Coruscant's skyline still burned with faint gold light where the psychic fire had touched it. From the wreckage of the Imperial Palace, survivors spoke of visions, a colossal figure wrapped in radiance, eyes like twin suns, his voice proclaiming salvation through order. And across every star system, that message spread faster than any rebellion ever had. The people began to whisper a forbidden phrase. The true Emperor has come. On the Death Star 2's command bridge, Darth Vader stood silent. Before him, the hologram of Palpatine flickered, the once imposing figure now pale and cracked with rage. He is no god. Palpatine snarled. A delusion, a parasite from another realm. You will hunt him down and destroy him, Lord Vader. Vader said nothing. His breathing filled the silence, rhythmic, heavy. He calls himself Emperor of Mankind, the Dark Lord continued. But there is no mankind, there is only my empire. I am the only sovereign of this galaxy. And yet, something trembled in Vader's chest. He remembered the moment that golden light washed over him, not darkness, not hatred, but purpose. He turned his gaze to the stars. Perhaps, there is room for more than fear, he said, his voice low. Palpatine's hologram hissed. You question me? I question power, Vader replied. And his feels, cleaner than yours. The connection snapped into static. Palpatine's scream echoed through the bridge before fading. The officers stared, terrified. None dared speak. Vader looked down at his gloved hands. Once, they had been built for destruction. Now, for the first time, he wondered if they could build instead. Far above Coruscant, the Emperor of Mankind stood atop the shattered throne balcony, his armor reflecting the dawn. He could feel the galaxy, billions of souls, restless and afraid. And through the warp's fracture, he reached them. Rise, my children, his voice thundered through every channel, every mind. You have lived under the shadow of tyrants. I offer you the light of unity. On worlds like Naboo and Alderaan, people fell to their knees. On Imperial garrisons, soldiers dropped their blasters, staring skyward. Even among the rebels, transmissions buzzed with awe. Was this another Sith trick, or had something divine truly arrived? In the Jedi exile camps, Luke Skywalker listened to the psychic echo, trembling. That voice, he whispered. It's not the Force. It's something beyond it. Obi-Wan's ghost flickered beside him. That is no ordinary man, Luke. His power comes from another truth. One that may destroy everything we know. Luke looked toward the stars, determination replacing awe. Then I need to see him for myself. Within weeks, the galaxy fractured. The Imperial Schism began. Half the Imperial fleet swore allegiance to the Golden Emperor, claiming his vision of unity was destiny fulfilled. They called themselves the Imperium Reborn. Others stayed loyal to Palpatine, refusing to yield to what they deemed a false god. They became known as the Dark Imperium, bound by fear and the dark side. Civil war ignited in the void. Star destroyers clashed with their own kind. Clone remnants, stormtroopers, and inquisitors divided into fanatical sects. Vader's ship floated between both sides, engines cold. He stared at the holograms of both emperors, one cloaked in shadow, the other in radiant fire. The galaxy demanded he choose. Would he serve the god who sought mankind's salvation? Or the master who forged him in pain? Vader's hand hovered over the controls. The Force calls me to balance, he murmured. Perhaps the truth lies between gods. And then, his ship turned toward Coruscant. He was going to meet the Golden Emperor face to face. The skies above Coruscant shimmered like molten glass. The psychic storm had long faded, but its residue still hung in the atmosphere, golden dust falling like holy ash. Darth Vader's shuttle cut through the light, descending toward the ruins of the Imperial Palace. It was strange returning here. Once, this had been the seat of his master's dominion, a monument to fear. Now, the air hummed with something else, faith, perhaps, or revelation. The landing ramp hissed open. Vader stepped out, his boots crunching over marble scorched by lightning. Rows of golden-armored warriors, not clones, not stormtroopers, stood waiting. They were human, yet more than human. Their eyes glowed faintly, their minds bound by a unity Vader could feel pressing against his own. Custodians, his instincts whispered. At their center stood the Emperor of Mankind. The sight of him was overwhelming. The air around him bent under psychic gravity. Every breath Vader took felt heavy, as if he were standing before a dying star made flesh. The Golden Emperor turned, and his gaze fell upon the Dark Lord. For the first time in years, Darth Vader bowed. You are not the one I serve, he said through the rasp of his respirator. Yet your presence commands me. The Emperor stepped forward, eyes burning like twin galaxies. You were born of pain, he said. A weapon forged by a broken master. But within you burns potential unfulfilled. You are not his servant, Vader, you are humanity's tragedy made manifest. Vader's fingers twitched. Beneath his armor, his flesh remembered agony. My humanity is gone, he said bitterly. Burned away long ago. Then let me show you what remains, said the Emperor. The air rippled. Vader's mind was dragged into light. In an instant, he saw himself, not as he was, but as he could have been. A warrior unshackled by rage. A man who brought unity, not terror. A father standing beside his son beneath the stars. Luke, Vader gasped, the name trembling in his voice. He is your legacy, said the Emperor. Not your failure. Palpatine sought to chain you to destiny. I offer you freedom to redeem it. The words hit deeper than any saber wound. But Vader's instincts screamed caution. You speak of redemption, he said. Yet you enslave minds through your will. How are you different from him? The Emperor's gaze softened. Because I do not rule for myself. I am the flame that burns so humanity may endure. I will die so they might ascend. Silence hung between them. Only the faint hum of Vader's respirator broke the air. Then, behind him, the shadows shifted. A cold voice hissed through the air, filled with venom and crackling darkness. You betray me again, Lord Vader. Palpatine had arrived. He stepped from the shadows of the shattered throne, his face warped by rage and lightning. His black robes swirled with unnatural energy, the dark side bending around him like a storm ready to devour the sun. Vader turned slowly, caught between gods. Palpatine's voice cracked through the chamber. You kneel before a corpse dressed in gold. A false prophet who toys with your weakness. You are mine. The Emperor of Mankind raised his hand, and Palpatine's lightning froze midair, crystallized into pure light. Your empire is rot, he said coldly. Your reign ends today. Vader stood motionless. For years he had obeyed, killed, endured. But now, faced with two opposing monarchs, one of shadow, one of divine fire, he felt the weight of the galaxy press on his chest. Palpatine sneered, summoning the full storm of the dark side. If you side with him, you die, Vader. The Emperor of Mankind extended his glowing gauntlet. If you side with me, you live beyond death, as a man reborn. The air cracked. Vader's mind raced, the pain of his past, the memory of Padme, the voice of Luke calling out on Endor. He turned toward Palpatine. And ignited his saber. You are my master, he said, crimson light painting the ruins. But this galaxy belongs to men, not monsters. He charged. The clash shook the palace. Palpatine's lightning met Vader's blade, spilling molten energy in all directions. The Emperor of Mankind extended his power, containing the storm in a dome of golden force. Lightning. Fire. Rage. Redemption. For the first time, the fate of two galaxies collided, one born of the warp, the other of the force. And at the center of it all, Darth Vader, the fallen knight, stood between gods. The heavens above Coruscant screamed. Lightning of two colors, gold and black, split the sky, dueling across the clouds like warring deities. Entire districts below lost power. Storms rolled through the city planet, tearing spires from their foundations. And at the heart of it all, inside the fractured throne room, the three most powerful beings of human history faced one another. Palpatine. The Emperor of Mankind. Darth Vader. Each embodied an era of humanity, corruption, salvation, and tragedy. The Dark Lord of the Sith struck first. Palpatine's fury exploded outward in a cyclone of force lightning that ripped apart marble and metal alike. The blast disintegrated the golden banners that still hung over the throne. His voice thundered through the psychic storm. You call yourself Emperor of Mankind, but mankind is mine. My empire is eternal. The Emperor of Mankind raised his hand, and reality bent. The lightning struck his armor, and shattered into shards of radiant glass. Your eternity, he said, was built on fear. The two forces collided, the Force and the warp intertwining, a storm of energy older than stars. Time fractured. For a moment, Coruscant's sky filled with flashes of other realities, burning Gothic cathedrals, dying stars, and vast golden halls filled with warriors in armor that glowed like suns. The shockwave rippled across hyperspace. On distant worlds, Jedi and Sith alike fell to their knees. Even the Death Star II, orbiting the mid-rim, quaked from the resonance. In the center of it all stood Vader. The Force roared within him, a tempest of hate and sorrow. Every blow between the Emperors sent ripples through his armor, every echo a whisper of destiny. Padme's voice haunted him. There's still good in you. Luke's voice joined it. Father, come with me. He turned, and saw the truth of both rulers. Palpatine's shadow crawled, feeding on pain and greed. The Golden Emperor's light was blinding, but beneath it, Vader sensed exhaustion. A man who had sacrificed everything for a dream that demanded endless sacrifice. Two gods, each enslaved by their vision. Vader clenched his fists. No, he muttered. No more gods. He lunged forward, his crimson blade igniting once more. Palpatine unleashed his fury. Traitor, he bellowed, his lightning colliding with Vader's blade. The blast hurled them both across the chamber. The Emperor of Mankind extended his hand, the air solidified, and psychic chains bound Palpatine midair. I have faced gods and demons beyond imagining, the Golden Emperor said, voice deep and resonant. You are but a shadow. But Palpatine laughed, a sound like cracking stone. And shadows consume the light. He shattered the bindings with a scream of pure hatred and hurled a storm that split the planet's crust. For a moment, even the Emperor of Mankind staggered. Vader saw his chance, and stepped between them both. His saber carved through the lightning, his armor glowing red and gold from the energy. Enough. The word echoed through the Force, a command so strong it made both emperors hesitate. Palpatine stared. You dare interrupt gods? I am no god, Vader said, voice trembling like thunder. I am the result of your wars, your lies, your visions. I am humanity's punishment. He reached out, one hand to each emperor, and pulled. The Force erupted through him. For a heartbeat, all three were connected, minds, souls, destinies. Vader saw the Emperor of Mankind's dream, a future where humanity was united but soulless, chained to duty and faith. He saw Palpatine's, an eternal reign of terror, where fear kept order. Both futures were cages. The galaxy doesn't need gods, Vader whispered. It needs freedom. And then, he released everything. The explosion was silent. A sphere of light expanded from the palace, pure and white. When it faded, the city was still. The throne room was gone. Only molten stone and drifting ash remained. Palpatine's presence vanished into the void. The Emperor of Mankind's golden armor lay cracked and empty. And at the center stood Vader, kneeling, his mask split, his breathing ragged. He looked up at the rising sun, its rays breaking through the smoke. For the first time, he saw light not as a weapon, but as peace. Perhaps now, the galaxy can begin again. His body fell still. The armor hissed once, then silence. Above Coruscant, the fleet ceased fire. Soldiers stared in disbelief as the golden and black banners burned away, leaving only the neutral gray of dawn. The schism ended not in victory, but in revelation. Two gods had fallen. A man had risen. And in the void that followed, the galaxy felt free. Coruscant was quiet. Not the kind of quiet born of peace, but of exhaustion. Smoke drifted from the upper levels of the Imperial Palace. The golden throne was gone, the obsidian one too. The skyline, once jagged with fire and warships, now shimmered under weak sunlight. For the first time in 1,000 years, no emperor ruled. The galaxy felt the absence like a wound. From the ruins, soldiers emerged, stormtroopers and custodians alike, their once brilliant armor dulled by soot and blood. They stared at one another not as enemies, but as men who had survived a god war they could barely understand. In the shadow of the collapsed Senate building, Moff Jared, one of Palpatine's last loyal officers, knelt beside a melted piece of golden armor. He picked up a shard, it pulsed faintly with psychic energy. "The Golden One is dead," a trooper whispered. "No," Jared said, eyes gleaming. "No god dies completely. This is proof that divinity can be touched. The galaxy doesn't need peace. It needs direction." He pocketed the fragment. Far above, in orbit, the Custodes' flagship Eternum Solis drifted powerless. Within its sanctum, the remaining Adeptus Custodes knelt before a broken throne of gold. They were silent, until one spoke, voice trembling. "The Emperor's light has dimmed. His last words guide us, humanity endures." Another rose. "Then we endure. Not as conquerors. As keepers." They turned their ship toward the unknown sectors of the Outer Rim, carrying with them fragments of the Golden Throne and a new creed, one that would take centuries to spread through the stars. Across the galaxy, echoes of the War of Gods rippled through hyperspace. The Force itself shifted. Jedi across the Outer Rim reported visions of a radiant storm fading into dusk. Masters felt an unfamiliar pulse within the Force, something beyond light and dark. On Ossus, the last of the old Jedi archivists named it the Grey Dawn. "Balance," Master Tverin whispered. "The galaxy has been reset. Not to light, not to darkness, but to choice." The Jedi debated endlessly. Some believed the Golden Emperor had been a Force avatar, a being who embodied pure will. Others saw him as an intruder who bent the Force to his foreign design. But none could deny what followed. Force sensitivity began to spread. Children once untouched by the Force suddenly displayed power. Entire colonies in the Mid-Rim reported visions, spontaneous telekinesis, and even time-dilated dreams. The galaxy was waking up. And yet, in the depths of Mustafar, something stirred. A single figure lay half buried in ash, the remains of Vader's armor, warped and half melted. Inside, beneath charred circuits and shattered bone, the Force lingered. It flickered like an ember refusing to die. Anakin Skywalker breathed once. And then, silence. But somewhere deep in the molten veins of that world, golden light flickered, faint and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The rebellion, leaderless and scattered, now faced a galaxy without an empire to fight. Mon Mothma called a secret council on Chandrila. Senators, Jedi survivors, even rogue Imperials attended. "We fought for freedom," she said. "Now that we have it, what will we do with it?" No one answered. Freedom, it turned out, was heavier than chains. Some worlds called for democracy. Others, still terrified, begged for structure, even if it meant a new kind of empire. Across the HoloNet, countless voices rose. "Bring back the Emperor. The Golden One will return. The gods are gone, the galaxy is ours." Civil unrest ignited across sectors. From the ashes of two empires, dozens of new ones began to rise. On Nar Shaddaa, among neon skylines and criminal dens, a new cult whispered of both emperors, not as gods, but as symbols. A hooded figure addressed a gathering of hundreds. The Golden One sought unity through sacrifice. The Shadow Emperor through fear. Both failed. But from their ashes, man himself shall rise. He lifted a hand, the air shimmered, filled with both golden and crimson light. No more Jedi. No more Sith. We are the Grey Legion. And the galaxy shall remember that we were born from gods, but answer to none. The crowd cheered. The cult would spread like wildfire across the outer rim, its members wearing half-black, half-gold masks. A movement had begun. Elsewhere, in the ruins of the Imperial Palace, archaeodroids sifted through rubble until one found something strange. A single, unbroken feather, forged from light. It pulsed once, twice, then dissolved into dust. Moments later, a whisper echoed through the force, faint but unmistakable. Humanity endures. The age of man had begun. The force had changed. The galaxy would never again bow to gods, neither of flesh nor spirit. But far beyond known space, at the edge of the galactic rim, a star began to burn brighter, unnaturally bright. Around it, new constellations twisted into the form of a golden throne. Perhaps the emperor of mankind was gone. Or perhaps, he was only waiting. Years passed. Decades blurred into centuries. The galaxy healed, but not evenly. Some worlds flourished under free councils and trade unions, others fell into chaos and warlords' reigns. The Empire and the Rebellion became myths, names whispered in classrooms as symbols of pride or terror, depending on who told the story. Yet one truth bound them all: the Force had changed forever. No longer bound to bloodlines or temples, it now answered to all. Farmers on Corellia levitated stones while tending fields. Children on Ryloth spoke of dreams where they could see entire star systems. Even smugglers on the rim found themselves moving faster than thought, guided by instinct that bordered on precognition. The Jedi archives had called it the Grey Dawn. But in the common tongue, it became known as the awakening of all. Among those born during this new era was a woman named Arda Ven. A scavenger from the ruined world of Jeddah, Arda grew up among fragments, old Jedi statues, cracked Kyber shards, and ghostly memories of the Force. But unlike the monks who once prayed to the light, Arda didn't worship the Force. She spoke to it. At night, when the twin moons rose, she'd whisper into the wind. "What are you?" And sometimes, the wind would whisper back. One night, while digging near the ruins of an old guardian temple, she uncovered a strange mask, half gold, half black. Its surface shimmered faintly when she touched it. The moment her skin met the metal, visions exploded behind her eyes. A man in golden armor. Another cloaked in black. Worlds burning. And a voice, calm and terrible. "We were gods once. But man is eternal." Arda gasped, falling backward, her hands shaking. From that moment, she began to dream of fire and throne rooms, of a power that was neither light nor dark, but decision itself. The Grey Legion was not gone. It had been waiting. Across the galaxy, factions began to re-emerge. On Coruscant, the Republic Restoration Senate tried to rebuild governance, but power was fragile. Politicians spoke of freedom, corporations whispered of profit. In the shadows, mercenaries and ex-Jedi worked as bodyguards, assassins, and advisors. And in that chaos, rumors spread of a leader uniting the Outer Rim under a single banner. A man known only as the Prime. No one knew his face. Some said he was an ex-Imperial admiral. Others swore he was a clone of Palpatine himself. But what truly terrified the Republic was that he carried both a crimson and golden saber, and his followers claimed he could silence Force users with a glance. His movement called itself the Grey Order. Their creed was simple. No light. No dark. Only will. Within a decade, the Order had seized 70 systems. They moved like an army of believers, organized, disciplined, relentless. The Prime speeches echoed across the HoloNet. The Jedi chained the Force to morality. The Sith drowned it in chaos. I will free it, and in doing so, free you. We are the true children of the galaxy, born from the war of gods, tempered by their failure. The Force belongs to all, and I will make it ours. His rise was unstoppable. But not everyone believed in his cause. On Ossus, the descendants of the last Jedi Masters had rebuilt a quiet enclave. They did not seek dominance or control, only understanding. Among them was Master Solon Ka, a scholar who had spent his life studying pre-Empire history. When news of the Grey Order reached him, he gathered his students. The Prime believes the Force should serve man, he said, but the Force is not a servant. It is life itself. If we bind it again, we invite the return of gods. Then what do we do? Asked one of his pupils. Solon Ka looked at the holomap, countless systems glowing in gray. We remember. We endure. And when the storm breaks, we stand in its calm. His words would later be inscribed as the first tenet of the Grey Rebellion. The first battle came on the desert world of Arcanis. The Grey Order's fleet descended like a storm, triangular ships lined in silver and black. The Republic's fragile navy crumbled in hours. But something unexpected happened. A single freighter, old and unarmed, descended through the chaos, piloted by Arda Ven. She landed in the middle of the burning city, surrounded by troopers in gray armor. Holding the half-black, half-gold mask she'd found years ago, she shouted across the plaza. You think you serve balance, but you serve fear. Her voice carried through the Force itself. Thousands heard her words echo inside their minds. Some troopers hesitated. Others dropped their weapons. And for the first time, the Prime himself appeared, tall, cloaked, his dual-colored lightsaber igniting with a hiss. You carry the mask of the old gods, he said, voice calm. Do you even know what it means? Arda raised her chin. It means they failed. But I won't. Their blades clashed, gold and crimson light twisting together like a dying sun. The duel became legend. Witnesses claimed the ground split open. That lightning fell from clear skies. That both combatants vanished in a wave of gray light that consumed the entire battlefield. When the smoke cleared, neither body remained, only the mask, now fused into a single hue, silver. It was taken as a sign. The Grey Order fractured. The Prime's fleet scattered. The Republic barely survived, but its people, weary and wiser, chose not to rebuild another Senate. Instead, they formed the Common Accord, a loose alliance of free systems bound not by law, but by mutual respect and shared survival. And thus ended the Grey Rebellion. Centuries later, when historians looked back upon that time, they would call it the Era of Balance. An age where no empire ruled. No order commanded. And no god returned. The Force flowed freely among all beings, not as a weapon, but as a whisper. And on a distant world, far beyond the galactic rim, an ancient throne sat empty, waiting. For perhaps the lesson of the gods was never to conquer, but to watch what their children would become. The galaxy had forgotten war. For 1,000 years, peace was not enforced, it simply was. No star destroyers, no Death Stars, no empires or republics. Only countless worlds, each free to grow, trade, and believe as they wished. But peace is not the natural state of existence. It is a pause. And even pauses, in the end, must break. In the void between galaxies, where stars were sparse and silence eternal, something ancient woke. It began as a whisper, a ripple across the Force so faint that even the most sensitive couldn't name it. But as the centuries rolled by, it grew stronger, more defined, until it reached a single being meditating on the moon of Ossus. The being's name was Terran Voss, last heir of the Jedi scholars, now little more than a hermit. He'd spent his life mapping the evolution of the Force, recording every anomaly, every dream shared by Force-sensitive minds. But this was different. A presence, vast and terrible, was returning. He rose from meditation, heart pounding. No, not again. He reached for his journal, flipping through pages filled with ancient prophecy, visions long dismissed as allegory. When gods sleep, stars will heal. When gods stir, stars will scream. Terran froze. The ink trembled beneath his fingers. The Force screamed. A wave of psychic pressure hit him, golden fire coursing through every nerve. Visions burned his mind, thrones in ruins, legions reborn, galaxies collapsing and reforming like lungs drawing a first breath. Then, a voice, heavy as eternity. It is time. Deep beyond known space, in a region the maps called the Shroud of Silence, a forgotten world stirred. It was not listed in any archive, not remembered by any holocron. Its sky burned dim with dying suns, and its surface was dominated by one impossible structure. A golden palace, buried in dust. At its center sat a figure, unmoving, skeletal, yet majestic beyond decay. His armor gleamed faintly under the red sky, cracked but unbroken. The Emperor of mankind, dormant for ages beyond reckoning. For millennia, he had rested, sustaining what remained of his essence. He had watched the galaxy rebuild itself, watched mortals evolve, watched the Force rediscover balance. But now, something had called him back. So, he murmured, voice like thunder wrapped in dust, they have forgotten the gods. His eyes ignited with gold flame. Good. Let them remember. He rose. The dust of ages fell from his armor like ash from a dying star. Around him, the air itself shimmered, reality bending as the warp bled faintly into the galaxy once more. In the core worlds, strange phenomena began to occur. Children spoke in languages no one knew. Planets dreamt. Whole cities pulsed with light during their nights, flickering like the heartbeat of some unseen titan. And among the gray monasteries, the old symbol, the fused silver mask, began to crack. Within days, Taran Vos and his disciples traced the disturbance to its source, the Shroud. When their ships reached the edge, scanners failed. Time slowed. The stars around them bent into spirals of gold. One of his students whispered, trembling. Master, something's watching us. Taran swallowed hard. Not something. He looked into the maelstrom. Someone. The Emperor stepped from the dust and into the stars. When his feet touched the void, the galaxy felt it. On Coruscant, towers trembled. On Tatooine, suns flared twice. Even the Force ghosts of Jedi long past, Yoda, Kenobi, Luke, flickered and faded into silence, their forms overwhelmed by a light older than their very power. The Emperor extended a hand, and space itself responded. This galaxy endured by forgetting me, he said. Now it shall remember what humanity truly is. His voice reached every mind, every creature, every living being. And unlike before, there was no rebellion, no empire to resist. Only silence, the kind that comes before all. But one voice broke it. Taran Vos stepped forward through the golden storm, robes whipping around him. His lightsaber ignited, not blue, not red, but pure white. You should have remained asleep, he said. We've learned to live without gods. The Emperor regarded him, almost amused. And yet you still kneel to the Force. We don't kneel, Taran said, raising his blade. We listen. The Emperor tilted his head. Then listen closely. He raised his gauntlet hand, and with a sound like reality itself tearing, the Force split in two. Half of the galaxy glowed in golden light. The other half drowned in shadow. Planets screamed. Stars dimmed. The final war was beginning. The galaxy was burning again. But this time, it wasn't the fire of blasters or the fury of rebellion, it was the Force itself, unraveling at the seams. Half of creation shimmered under the Emperor's golden light, radiant yet suffocating. The other half fell into consuming shadow, born from the backlash of his awakening. Stars flickered like dying embers. Entire planets drifted through zones where time ceased to function. The Force had always been balance. Now it was fracture. And at the heart of that fracture, two beings faced each other, one man, one god. Taran Vos stood upon the broken plains of the Shroud world, the same world where the Emperor's throne had risen once more from beneath the dust. Around them, pieces of reality floated like shattered glass, chunks of stone, metal, and even fragments of memory itself. The Emperor's armor glowed with molten gold, lines of psychic fire weaving across his chest plate. His voice shook the heavens. You sought peace without power, mortal. But peace built on weakness cannot last. Terran's white lightsaber ignited again, flickering under the strain of the dying force. Power is weakness. It binds you. We broke the cycle you began, and you're trying to rebuild it. The Emperor raised his hand, and Terran was hurled back through the air. Cycle, he thundered. There is no cycle. There is only ascension. He stepped forward, each stride leaving trails of molten energy in the air. The Force was never your ally. It was my creation, a fragment of my will that sought purpose in the void. And now, it calls to me again. Terran struggled to his feet. Then I'll silence it. He plunged his saber into the ground. The planet screamed. Energy burst outward, waves of white and gray spiraling into the sky. Around them, the broken shards of the Force began to reform into streams of neutral light. You can't destroy the Force, the Emperor said, raising both hands. It is existence itself. I'm not destroying it, Terran gasped. I'm freeing it, from you, from the Jedi, from everyone. The streams of light and shadow collided, forming a blinding storm. The Emperor roared, drawing upon his ancient might, the power of 1,000,000 souls and the forgotten warp that had once obeyed his thought alone. His golden aura burned brighter than any sun. You defy me, a god who walked when stars were young. No, Terran said softly, his voice steady amid the chaos. I remind you what it means to be human. He stepped forward, one last defiant move, and thrust his saber into the Emperor's chest. The blade sank deep, not into flesh, but into memory. The Emperor's eyes widened. He saw everything again. The worlds he had built. The children he had protected. The horrors he had justified. The countless times he had believed he alone could save humanity, only to destroy it again. For the first time in eons, the Emperor of mankind felt regret. I only wanted, to protect them, he whispered. Then let them live, Terran said. Without gods. The Emperor closed his eyes. Golden tears streamed down his face, molten light turning to stardust as they fell. He released his hold on reality. And the Force, the true, unbound Force, exploded outward. It swept across the galaxy like a second dawn. Every being felt it, the slaves, the kings, the wanderers, the children. They felt themselves lighten, as though chains they never knew they carried had finally fallen away. Then, silence. The light faded. Where the Emperor and Terran had stood, there was only a crater, filled with a faint silver mist. The mask of the gods lay at its center, whole again, its surface now smooth and still. The galaxy was quiet. Truly, finally quiet. Centuries later, storytellers would whisper of that day, when the gods of the Force ended themselves, and the galaxy awoke without them. No more Sith. No more Jedi. No more prophecy. Only life, free, imperfect, endless. On distant worlds, children still dreamt of stars and voices in the wind. But they didn't call it the Force anymore. They called it hope. And far beyond the known galaxy, where even the stars dared not wander, a single light flickered in the darkness, a golden spark, faint but eternal. The last whisper of the Emperor's will. Protect them well, for they are all my children. The light dimmed. And for the first time in all existence, even God slept in peace. If you felt the power of this ending, the rise and fall of gods, the rebirth of the galaxy, the end of the Force, then subscribe now. More what if stories like this are coming, where the unimaginable becomes real, and the galaxy will never be the same again.